Salt Lake City. Hey, Jake, how are you? Salt Lake Jake. Salt Lake Jake.
Salt Lake Jake.
Salt Lake
Welcome to Salt Lake Jake's Take. I am Salt Lake Jake. I've got my guys Peter and Brennan here. What's up, fellas?
What's up,
Hey.
Jake?
Hey, we made it, guys. It is game week. We made it through the desert.
Tingles.
We have given our rations of water and made it all the way through the offseason. The game kicks off in 4 days. Your University of Utah Utes hosting SEC Blue Blood, the Florida Gators.
Woof.
Man, I
Can't
cannot wait. And because we're playing the Gators, we've got a special guest this week. His name is Brad Clark. He is a father. He is an attorney. He is a basketball player. He is tall, dark, and handsome. But the reason we brought him on, he grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, which makes him a big-time Gator fan. In addition to that, not only being a Gator fan, he then went to school at the University of Utah, became a Ute fan as well. So he's got the best of both worlds, but he's going to help us preview the Gators. Bradley, what is up, brother?
What's up, Jake? Thanks
How you
for having
feeling
me
this week?
on. Feeling about the same as I did last year. Torn.
Which is what?
Split down the middle, man. Split
Yep.
down the middle.
Yep.
I got orange and blue in my blood, and I've got red by marriage and graduation. So it's a fun week for me, one that we've looked forward to for 20 plus years.
You're like
and
Urban
here we
Meyer.
are on round 2.
Yeah. Yep, just like
It's
Urban
like the
Meyer,
reverse
without all the
Urban.
lap dances with college girls. Right?
I'm a little less
So
intense.
he's Utah red by blood. Might as well throw it out there. That blood happens to be my blood. He married my sister when he was going to the U. So I went last year down to the Florida game in the swamp with him. And let's just recap my thoughts on that real quick. The swamp, you hear about it. It's prestigious. It's legendary. It is better than you can imagine. You hear all the goodness about it, but it is insane. It is louder than you can even imagine. Their traditions are incredible. They have tons of chants and cheers and songs. It was awesome, man. I just wish we would have come out with the victory, but we're not here to rehash last year's disappointing loss. We're here to look forward. And so I've got my man Brad on here. So we're going to talk about the Florida Gators. Okay, we know the Gators lost their quarterback, Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall pick to the Indianapolis Colts. Tell us, Brad, who's their starter? Tell me what you know about him.
So the quarterback came in is a transfer out of Wisconsin, Graham Mertz. Honestly, from a Gator perspective, there's a lot of hope coming into this year with a quarterback that's unknown. Looking at the stats from last year coming out of Wisconsin, not a lot of bright spots, but I also think that was a result of their offense of run on first down, run on second down, and put the quarterback in a bad position on third down. A lot of stuff coming out of camp. He's an accurate quarterback. He's been able to find receivers and mesh with the group really well. So there's a lot of excitement, but yeah, he's definitely not Anthony Richardson. So I think we're going to miss that piece this year, but we'll see how the season goes.
Yeah, I mean, definitely coming out of Wisconsin, they're not known for their passing offense, right? They're a ground and pound, big, beefy lineman, good running back. So typically quarterbacks in the Wisconsin offense don't have high-flying offenses. And you're right, he is different from Richardson because Richardson was a spectacular athlete. As we saw last year in the game, if a play breaks down, he can create a 50, 60-yard touchdown run like he did against us. There was that 2-point conversion where they were up 1 late in the 4th, and we had him wrapped up. He broke free, rolled right, hit the guy in the back of the end zone to put him up 3, which is a huge play because we know we lost. We were in field goal range. We could have kicked it and won had they not completed that. So Graham Mertz, what kind of year are you expecting out of him then?
I think it's going to be up and down. I think he's going to be a game manager more than a breakout player.
Okay.
And so if he can manage the games, I think it'll be good. We got some solid running backs and some young but deep freshmen coming in at receiver. We got 3 solid freshmen at receiver, along with some veterans there. We're kind of weak at tight end, but we'll see how that goes. The offensive line's rebuilt. So from the offensive perspective, I think if he can manage the game flow, I think he'll be successful and win more games than we lose.
You know, that's one thing we know about the SEC is doesn't matter if they're having a great year or not. They are loaded with athletes. It's just the nature of the conference. Receiver, running back, safety, cornerback, doesn't matter. They'll always have dudes there. So, that's actually maybe a good strategy if all you need is a game manager. And if he can do that, and you can rely on your athletes and rely on your defense. So you just touch on the offensive line a little bit. You brought up, I don't know the exact details, but maybe you can tell us. It sounds like they have either 4 new starters or 5 new starters, or they have 3 new starters and one of the old starters got injured, or what's the situation there?
Yeah, so we got at left tackle and center. They're returning starters. In the right guard, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Mazuka. He's a transfer from Baylor. So we got the new kid out of Baylor. We got a right tackle George transferred in from Bama. So we got some solid beef coming in. The left guard might be a true freshman. I think I can't remember. Najee Harris. They're talented and big, but we got to see how they can do. I think a telling sign is going to be how they respond to Rice Eccles and the fans there. Being able to get plays off. You know how an offensive line, if they're not in sync, then Rice Eccles with the noise there, I think could cause some false starts on the offensive side.
Yeah, but I got a question right there on crowd. Sorry, Jake. Is the Swamp louder than Rice Eccles?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Listen, I've been to Notre Dame. I've been to Michigan. I've been to Iowa State. I've been to Washington. I've been to USC. I've been to Arrowhead, the Chiefs, which is notoriously one of the loudest in the NFL, and the Swamp is easily as loud as Arrowhead or louder. I don't know how they do it. It must. I mean, there's 90,000+ in there. First of all, 2, they're all lubed up on the beverage. Second of all, 3, I guess the way the Swamp's built is just kind of designed to be higher up. Like dude. We went there the day before the game. We walked around the stadium. We were able to get in and sit in there before the game, and it is a freaking impressive stadium. Just like aesthetically, you sit there and you look around and it's cavernous, it's huge. So you fill that thing at night with 90,000+. It was incredible. So the noise is good coming out of Rice Eccles for its size. It's definitely one of the top 3 environments in the Pac-12, along with Oregon and Washington, no question. But it doesn't compare to the Swamp. I mean, it's good. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. But the Swamp is next freaking level. I'm not just saying that. I've said that to everybody I've talked to. It was super, super impressive.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
I've noticed this week of a bunch of Florida fans posting pictures of Utah fans last year plugging their ears, in the stadium watching the game. So, I mean, I think that's definitely something that they're pointing to as one of their strengths, right?
Yeah, and you know what? This is the best way I can describe it. What's the loudest section in Rice Eccles typically? North end zone, right? Yeah. So the Swamp is literally like 90,000 north end zoners. They stood the whole game. There was not a seat sitting down the whole game. They have dozens, and I mean dozens, of coordinated chants and cheers and songs. And it's college football at its best. It literally is. They're SEC blue blood. I put them in the top 4 in the SEC: Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Florida. They're one of the greats, and it was just an incredible place. So noise wise, they may be affected based on the fact that they're the opposing crowd, but they played in tough places.
And it tells us something. My thought on this game. I mean, I don't have the analytics like Brad, but my thought is this is never going to happen again. An SEC team will not travel to Rice Eccles Stadium to open their season ever again. Plan on this as a one-time, don't you think?
Probably not, and definitely not one of the blue bloods. I mean, maybe we'll get a Vandy one year, or like a Missouri,
right?
Definitely not one of these 4 blue bloods.
This is a rare thing we're going to.
It's so rare, in fact, that Brad can correct me on the exact details, but I think it's something like the first time in 30 years they've left the state in non-conference or something.
Yeah,
like that, right?
I think they've had 2. They had one where I think they played in Atlanta or somewhere the first game a few years back. I think it was against Michigan or somebody. And then before that, it was like early 90s with Spurrier. They went and played at Syracuse. They don't play non-conference out of the state at all, much less on the road first game of the season in altitude. They've never been in altitude. The noise may not affect Florida, as you said, but the altitude is going to be a factor first game of the year.
I was going to get to that next, actually. Yes, because we know when Utah went down to Florida last year, the whole thing was the humidity, and Utah actually changed the way they did a lot of their pregame routine. They actually didn't come out pregame in full pads to try and protect against the heat. So people joke around about the altitude, but it is legit an issue. Like if you go to a vacation in Newport Beach, California, and run on the beach or bike on the beach, you feel like better, like your lungs can inhale oxygen, you don't get as tired. The altitude is a legit thing. And from what I read, Florida's actually not getting in to Salt Lake until late Wednesday night. So they'll be in town less than 24 hours before they even kick off. So that could be come the middle of third and first part of the fourth quarter. That could be a big issue with like exhaustion and oxygen level.
I think another thing they don't talk about is time of game. Like we're kicking off at 7. What, the game ends at 11?
6, kicking off 6 local time.
6, excuse me.
So
Okay,
get to the stadium on time, Pete. I don't want that as an excuse.
I'm not Brennan. Brennan runs up the stairs. Brennan lied on the last episode. He runs up the stairs at kickoff. But anyway,
Whatever, I'm always there.
No, I'm saying it's so by 10 o'clock, it's midnight on the East Coast.
Yeah, that is an issue to think about. So you got the altitude, you got the travel. I read somewhere in the NFL, when you travel 2 time zones away, like your winning percentage, doesn't matter who it is, drops precipitously, right? So the time zone difference you mentioned and the altitude, I think those are 2 things that maybe they're not fully expecting. Yeah. So okay, let's talk about defense, Brad. What do you got coming back on D?
So defense, D-line's deep and they're big. That's what I know. We got about 6 guys that they're going to be rotating in that are all over 300 pounds. Normally you hear that on the offensive line, but hearing that on the defensive line is something else. So I expect some good run stop there. The question I have on their defense really is at safety. They're really thin. They only got 3 players back there they're rotating in. And if somebody goes down, it's going to be tough. Cornerbacks are deep. We got some kids that'll be first day draft potential coming out. So cornerback, we're sitting good. Linebackers are solid. We do have a transfer from Ohio State. They're always tough on defense. We got a kid, Mitchell, coming in from Ohio State. So I look good. The defense last year was porous, gave up some major big plays in the pass game. So we'll see. There's a lot of positive energy coming out on the cornerback side, but the safety is a question.
Okay. One area I think Florida might be able to exploit is we are starting for the first time under Kyle Whittingham, a true freshman in his first college game at left tackle, the most important offensive lineman position. Now, granted, Spencer Fonnell's a stud, obviously, super highly recruited, and it's not unheard of for blue chippers to start, but Witt's never done it, and so that'll be his first start going against an SEC defensive end. That might be a position battle to watch, especially, depending on who we got at quarterback. I know we talked about, we think Rising might start. We've also heard things like Barnes might start. We've also heard rumors that Nate Johnson might start. So no one really knows who's coming out under center. If it's Barnes, who's a little bit mobile, but not like super mobile, that could be an issue escaping pressure. If it's Nate Johnson, who's, as we discussed last episode, legit 10-3 sprinter speed, that could help out. I mean, if the pocket breaks down, he gets in the open field, that could be an advantage. So it'll be definitely interesting to see what happens there. Is there any particular player or position battle, Brad, you're thinking you're looking forward to most?
I think on the for the cornerback, we've got Marshall, who I said is got first day draft potential. I always love to see receivers on cornerbacks and see what the offensive coordinators will do to exploit mismatches. I know that Utah has some receivers coming back. There's some talent there. I can't remember the name of the transfer that's coming in at receiver.
Micah Pittman from Florida State.
Micah Pittman. So that could be something there that we could look at.
Yeah. That's what's crazy is we've kind of really made over the wide receiver room. Our number 1 receiver last year is Devon Vele, and he's probably be our 3rd guy this year. You've got Micah Pittman coming back. You've got a transfer from Indiana, Emory Simmons. You've got Money Parks, who is coming up, who's improving and going to play a major role. You've got Munir McClain. You've got Devon Vele. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize the wide receivers. What's frustrating is we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. All that can change based on whoever is under center. So yeah, man, I can't wait to see Pittman out there. My brother was talking to Brian Blecken, who's a former Utah safety and is kind of on the staff now, right? In some capacity. And he said Micah Pittman looks amazing in camp and is going to be our best receiver in the last decade, which I wow. I mean, I get, man, he was a Florida State second leading receiver last year, and Florida State had a good team and they're going to be a top 10 team this year. So if you get an ACC powerhouse as one of their leading receivers, that's a good player, right? So it'll be very interesting to see what Pittman does. He's coming back from hip surgery, but he's been fully cleared and participating in the entire camp. So it's not like it's not like Cam or Keithy who we're waiting on. So he should be good to go. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Any other thoughts on the Florida personnel before we jump into predictions and things like that?
Well, why don't you just let's hear from Brad. What's the game gonna? What do you think? How's it gonna end?
Well, I was talking to Jake earlier this week about it. Going into this game is hard for me, right? Because I've been cheering for the Utes for as long as I've been married, as long as I went to the Utes. So that's over 20 years. Been to many games, never cheered against the Utes. Last year was tough. Florida came out on top, but I'm not sure they were necessarily the best team last year. Just the ball bounced the right way at the right time. This year, I think it's going to come down. I think it's going to be another close game, just like last year. I'm interested to see who the quarterback is for Utah. I think that's going to tell us a lot of the direction it's going to go. Having Keithy back is going to be huge to exploit the middle of the field. And they were able to do that on Florida last year. At the end of the day, it's tough for me to choose and pick against the Gators, but I think this year Utah is going to take it at the very end, maybe by a field goal.
Oh man, I can't handle a close game. I can't. I literally got a pit in my stomach as you said that. That sucks.
Jake,
I forgot how much I hate football because I love it, but I also during the game, Brad can attest this. I am a freaking stress case. I can't handle it. I mean, I look at this last game against USC at home where it was incredible. I did not watch the 4th down play or the 2-point conversion. I knelt in my chair and turned around and just with my back to the field and just listened for the crowd because my heart was beating so much and I couldn't handle it. I hate it. I hate football, but I'm addicted to the dumb thing for some reason.
So what's going to happen, Jake?
Okay. Well, it's hard. Okay. I'm going to go on the premise that Cam Rising does not start.
Okay.
If I'm flipping a coin, that's my guess.
Yeah.
We've seen both sides of people saying, oh, he is, oh, he's not. So I'm going on the premise that he does not start. And I'm also going on the premise that Nate Johnson starts, not Bryson Barnes. So that's what I'm going on. And I think if we do that, I think it's going to be a close game. I think, I know we're going to have one of our best defenses ever. Witt said there's no weakness on the defense. The D-line's banged up, but they're talented. Linebackers are our best linebackers ever, and we have a really good secondary. So if Nate Johnson starts, you got to account for a couple mistakes, freshman mistakes, his first start, his first true game. So I'm going to say it's going to be something like we win 31-27, 4-point game. It's going to be a pucker game. I mean,
you think Nate Johnson can score 31 points?
What's that?
You think Nate Johnson can score 31 points?
I think he can. I mean, that's 4 touchdowns and maybe a defensive score, right? So 3 touchdowns, a defensive score. So 31-27. And I think that the advantage comes down to that Mertz is just not mobile. He's a lot like when Utah opened up against Michigan in 2015.
Yeah.
Harbaugh's first game. They had a ton of talent and they ended up being a really good team. I think a 10 or 11 win team, but they had Jake Rudock at quarterback, who was a transfer from Iowa, and we were able to get after him. So I think we dial up enough pressure to get after Mertz to make him uncomfortable. And so that'll be kind of the edge that gives us the win. Is we'll have the crowd into it, we'll have the altitude, we'll have being able to get after Graham Mertz. And I think we pull it out 31-27. But I was telling someone earlier, I don't care what the score is. We can win 2-0 with the safety. I just want to win. That's all I care about.
We needed that pick 6 at the end of the Michigan game to win it. I forgot, was it Hatfield or who picked it?
It was Justin Thomas, actually.
Justin Thomas, yeah.
We were up 7, and Michigan had the ball. They were about midfield, started to drive in the 4th quarter. Justin Thomas picked it off, took it to the house, and I think we won 28-14 or 24-13, something along those lines.
And if we don't have Cam, we need that play, whatever that is, to win this game.
We need RD. So that's my prediction. My prediction is I'm going to be stressed and be in a bad mood either way. But I'm glad it's back.
But we got to watch
football. This week's going to be tough to concentrate. It's been hard already just getting this close to the game, thinking about rolling up with my son in his little jersey, how excited he is. And I just can't wait, man.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Should we go to a season prediction?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Game week.
What?
Game week. My thoughts are, oh man, and I know. Okay, throwing out the variable of the quarterback. Let's pretend Cam Rising is healthy for every game except the first one. I think it's going to be hard to repeat, man. It's a good league this year. You got 5 top 18 teams. The returning Heisman winner, and they looked good. Granted, it was San Jose State, but their offense looked amazing. USC did, and they have this freshman named Zachariah Branch that people are saying looks like Reggie Bush 2.0, and he had a punt or kick return for a touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown, looked awesome. So the league is really good. I'm going to say with our schedule, opening against Florida, going to Baylor, at SC, at Washington, Oregon at home, at Oregon State. I think personally 9-3 is the best case. Could be 8-4.
That put us in the title game?
What's that?
Does that put us in the title game?
I don't think it does. I think it's USC and Washington or Oregon in the title game based on the way the schedules break down, which people are going to look at and say, oh, it's so disappointing. It's really not. I mean, when you have 5 really good teams, it happens. We could honestly be better than we were last year, like a much better team, and still end with a record that's not as good. And it's just the way it is when you're playing in leagues that are like this. The Pac-12 is by many people the second best league in the country this year behind the SEC, you know? So like, it's not some flimsy, floozy garbage of a league or independence like BYU's been languishing in for a decade, right? It's a real big boy football schedule.
You saw what Herb Street and Pat McAfee said yesterday on game day. They said Utah's going to win the league because all things being equal with these great quarterbacks and everything, assuming we have Cam, Utah has a defense.
Yeah. Utah should have the best defense. And guess what else, fellas? That defense on the 2 deep, of the 22 people on the 2 deep, only 2 of them are seniors. 2. That means 20 of the 22 people on the 2 deep on defense are underclassmen. So we could be better next year, especially on defense. So this youth program that Kyle Whittingham has built is a machine now, right? It took 3 or 4 years to really get into the Pac-12 and compete. But man, we've been in the last 4 Pac-12 title games, full seasons, because 2020 didn't count, right? We've been in the last 4 Pac-12 title games. We've won back-to-back championships. And even in 2019, when we didn't win the championship, we had Huntley, Moss, and Blood, whatever. We got a whole new team the next full season, and we're back again, right? So this program Kyle Whittingham's built is a machine now. So next year, we're going to be just as good. We'll be back again, ranked in the top 10, 15 again next year, as long as Witt's here. So, So I think you're right, though. With the defense like we got just as good a chance to win it. But like I said, it's just as good a chance. We have 5 other teams.
Our schedule is brutal. And the Oregon State game is like the one that I'm worried about on that Friday night.
Short week on the road.
Just and then like the mood that you get if you lose to Oregon State, it's like, oh, are we 5th? That kind of thing.
Yep. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the wide mood swings of all the fans. it is. You win where everyone's ecstatic. You lose. It's like, well, Whittingham sucks. Like, what is he? I mean, how did he not know to roll out Nate Johnson on that 3rd down or something stupid? Like, I'm just not ready for that.
Okay, Brad, we do a thing called the speed round. We're up against it for this episode on time. So we have 3 questions real quick and I know you've been to enough Utah games that you'll be able to answer these with ease. And I'll start with Brad. I'll go to Brandon and then end it with Jake. Okay, we ready? Okay, quick answer. Ready? The first question is go-to concession at Rice Eccles. Your go-to concession. And let's never mind that we're a Pepsi stadium, so we're not going to rip on how bad the concessions are. We're not going to say anything about how there's not good food. We're going to talk about your favorite go-to. All right.
I got the spicy cowboy corn dog. That's my favorite. I usually have 2 a game.
Solid. West Side. Brandon.
I'm simple man. I do popcorn and a soft pretzel.
Oh yeah. Jake.
I love myself the brisket, nachos, and a Dr. Pepper. However, I am now 3 months soda free, so I will not be having a Dr. Pepper. I'll just be having the brisket, nachos, and water.
Where do you get the brisket nachos?
There's the barbecue place on the west side, about down on the 25, 30-yard line on the south end in the little concessions. There's it's called Champion Barbecue or something.
Oh, okay.
But they're good. Yeah, brisket nachos.
South.
They used to have a truck in the north or south end zone before the renovation where they did that there, and it was awesome. But yeah, they're still really good.
Problem is I sit northwest side, and maybe I'm down on the concessions because there's not as much options, and I'm not willing to make the trek. Yeah. Okay, next question. the best swag you own, or like souvenir, like it could be your Sugar Bowl beads. It could be, that ticket stub from the USC game. Brad, what's the best swag you've got?
I think you named it right there. It's Sugar Bowl beads. I grabbed actually a couple that year. Grabbed one Utah and one Florida.
Solid. Brandon.
I can't think of a good one I got. I mean, I got some great Utah shirts. That's all I got.
You don't have like Kyle Whittingham's autograph
like headband
tattooed
or something? No, I don't have.
All right, fair enough. Jake, what do you got? Jake, I actually pitched this. I teed this question up because Jake, as we all know, Jake, will you describe your man cave as well while we talk about this?
Before we do that, though, Brad, you should have seen Brad at the Sugar Bowl getting those beads, going down the French Quarter, asking any fair lady he could see if they could have those beads.
Hey, now.
Anyway, my favorite that I have is my frame with 4 NY6 ticket stubs in there. You got the Fiesta Bowl ticket stub, Sugar Bowl ticket stub, and both Rose Bowl ticket stubs. Got that framed. It's beautiful because, I mean, Grant went 2 for 2 in those games, but the fact is that we've been to 4 BCS/NY6 games in the last 18 years. For a program like Utah, that is phenomenal. So I've got that framed on my wall up there. That's my favorite. My man cave, though, I designed this when I built my house. I have 3 TVs. In the middle, I have a large 80-inch TV, and on the right and left is flanked by a couple 44-inch TVs. That way, during football season, I can have the Utes game on the middle, say the Ducks game on the right, and another national game there on the left. Watch all 3 games. I've got the Utah stripe going around the entire wall in the basement. I've got a giant drum and feather on my south wall, and then hanging from my ceiling, I have homemade banners from all the Pac-12 championship games, the title games in the past, and I have my own Ring of Honor where I've retired numbers of players that I've loved watching. So I've got their numbers up on the wall. I added Devin Lloyd after the season 2 years ago. I've got all the, Brian Johnson, Zach Moss, Eric Weddle, Smith, etc. So that's my man cave in the fall. Although this summer has been taken over by about 20 teenagers watching ballroom dancing videos from my daughter down there, and it sucked.
Hey, man caves are versatile. That's okay.
Yeah,
that's all right. Hey, I want to redo my answer.
Yeah, go.
All right. So my friend Chris Blake gave me a white long sleeve T-shirt of Olenesi and Nick Ford, just those 2, like printed, standing up like mid game, and that was the shirt. Wore it to the Rose Bowl, the first Rose Bowl, and I got so many looks from that because it looks really cool and it's unique. No one else has one, and who else has an offensive lineman shirt?
Shout out Chris Blake. My item is my book, My Life on a Napkin by Rick Majerus, signed. And he went to a book signing at the bookstore once, didn't think anyone would show up, and was pissed that the line was around the corner. That's my piece of swag.
Good old Rick. I miss him. Oh, I miss him.
Okay, last question to end the episode. Jake, what will your mood be Friday morning this week? And let's go around the horn. Brad, knowing you're Florida, your thoughts are mixed. Let's start with Brad.
Well, I'm going to tell you, my mood is I'm in a win-win situation. Last year it was mixed, but this year, if Utah wins, I'm happy because we're in Rice-Eccles, and I love the crowd when we win in Rice-Eccles. If Florida wins, then that goes to my roots. I might have some mood with my wife after that if Florida wins again, but we'll get over it. But I think ultimately the next day I wake up with a big smile on my face because I'm back in Rice-Eccles with my family and friends.
Brennan.
I think we'll be ecstatic Friday morning, ecstatic and relieved because we'll have the win under our belt before the college football weekend starts off. So we can just sit back without stress, watch the rest of the teams, toss some smack about Sam Houston State scoring points on the Cougs or something like that.
Jake,
I think it's going to be a relief because I'm going to be so stressed the day before, but I think we pull out a victory, and I'm going to be putting on loop Bad Moon Rising, baby, and I'm going to be pumping my fist all Friday because football is back. The Utes hopefully open up the season 1-0, and it's going to be fun.
Let's go. Go Utes.
All right, fellas. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to Salt Lake Jake's Take. I am Salt Lake Jake, and I am out.
Jake in Salt Lake City. Hey, Jake, how are you? Salt Lake Jake. Salt Lake Jake.
Salt Lake Jake.